Take me through your day. It was a Friday.
We were actually had brought in things to make sundaes and regular like store-bought ice cream sandwiches and little cones and everything, and we were there celebrating 2 birthdays. Our supervisor, Chris Ann, and Josh, his birthday, and Josh is one of our newer employees. We were having fun all day long. I mean, it's like we were joking, well, we're going to have ice cream for lunch. All of us are going to be, gaining some weight here. And every day, around 4 o'clock, we've gotten to the practice where we text ourselves, power hour, 1 more hour to go. Let's push it through, ladies and gentlemen. And I happened to look at my computer. It was 4:06, and I was waiting for the first power hour message. Usually, Tiona, which is another coworker of ours, usually is the one that starts it off, and if somebody else beats her to it, we tease her about it, because she's the one that originally started it. And we heard a pop, 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 and I'm thinking nail gun, because they're doing some renovations, and they're going to be renovating our whole section, and we were supposed to move to a different building. And I'm thinking, nothing about it, and nobody else, even was concerned. And then Claudia, Melanie, and Christine, that were in the front office, came running through the door screaming, "Active shooter." And I'm thinking, well, the active shooter class, I don't think it's that old. I said, I've been through it, Sandra's been through it. Why are we having a drill? I don't think everybody's trained in it yet. And Claudia says, this is not a drill, there's an active shooter in the building. Run, get off your phones, run, get out. And so I grabbed my purse, and we were all running in the same direction towards the south stairwell. And then I heard somebody else screaming, "It's too late, run the other way, hurry, run." And 7 of us ran in the same direction, and we were going to go out the break room door. And Keith was there, and he said, "Stop, get up against the wall, get as close as you can to the wall, stay still, be quiet." And he was acting as a lookout. He was looking out the small window where you could see, what's going on. And I don't know what he saw, but he said, "Get in Lloyd's office now, barricade yourselves, and hurry." And we all went in there. I turned and said, "Keith," and he said, "I gotta check on everybody else." And we shut the door, locked it, and pushed a metal cabinet against the door. And it was just like, seconds later, Dwayne tried to come through, and he shot through our door 4 times, and 2 bullets almost came through the back of the metal cabinet. And we all fell to the ground, and I crashed into a box. And I don't know if he thought, he got somebody or what, because of the noise we were making when we fell. And then we heard a couple more shots, and I think that's when Keith went down. Then we heard a bunch of rapid fire, and it sounded like it was coming from the first floor, and then nothing. So I got on my phone and called 911, and everybody was telling me to be quiet, don't do it. And I said, I was talking to him as low as I could, and the operator kept on saying, "I can't hear you, I can't hear you." And I was trying to just raise my voice a little bit, and they kept on saying, "Be quiet." And I looked at them, I said, "They need to know, they're telling me they need to know where we're at, so the police know not to, come in forcefully." And I told the operator there was 6 of us, and that nobody was hurt, and that we were in Robin and Lloyd's office. And she kept on trying to ask me questions, and then we heard more more noise, so I hung up. And then Pearl was texting, I guess, somebody on the 3rd floor, because the next thing I knew, Tara McGee was folding up 3 fingers and pointing up. And I said, what? And she said, I said, he's on the 3rd floor. And she shook yes. And it's just, you know, I remember looking around, and the baby of the group, Lori, she was huddled behind Loida, and she was just crying and shaking. And I kept on thinking, she needs her mom, she needs somebody to hold her until this is over. And we were afraid to move. So finally we heard, code blue, police, anybody here? We started screaming. We were there, and we were moving the file cabinet trying to get out, and there was a big police officer asking us how many of us were there any injuries. And Loida looked out, and she started screaming, Keith is on the ground, Keith is on the ground. And the officer said, it's not safe for you yet, barricade yourselves back in, we'll come back for you. And next time they came, we were removing the cabinet and opening the door, and the only thing that I focused on was a blue glove reaching out for me to take his hand. I didn't even look at who the officer was. And he pulled my hand and said, come on. And they were telling everybody else, look at the person in front of you, don't look around. Stay focused on them, don't look around. But you couldn't help it. You looked. I was looking for Keith, I couldn't see him. There was splintered wood all over the place. Doors were off their hinges, just broken. It looked like total chaos. They were going to take us down the north stairwell, and another officer said, no, take them down the other way. So they had us go down the south stairwell, and there was a body there on the landing, covered in blood. They had her covered up. I just started shaking and crying, and I just stopped, and I kept on staring, and the officer said, don't stare at the body, look away. I said, I can't do this. He said, yes, you can, you're strong enough, come on, don't look, step over her. And I didn't know at that time that was Missy, and she was one of my friends. When we got to the door, they took all of our purses and put them in the hallway because we had to raise our hands and go out. So they knew that we weren't a threat. When you looked around, there were police everywhere. Everybody's face looked solemn. They took us to the post office where we were grouped, and all I can remember was I kept on looking around trying to find everybody to make sure that everybody was okay, that I knew. And there were people I couldn't find. And I didn't know who was in the hospital, who had been killed. And when I was home sitting with my family, my son was just holding me tight, and then they showed who had died. And I found out that 4 of the people that I knew and cared about were among the ones that were killed, one of them being Keith. And then my grandbaby, she's going to be 14 months, she usually runs around, plays, and tries to hide and do different things, and pick up things she's not supposed to, and that baby knew something was going on. She was quiet the whole time, and when I was trying to sleep that night, I slept on the couch over at my son's in-laws. They took care of us. They were wonderful, but my grandbaby, she was just, you know, every time I moved and I was having a fitful night, she was like moving all over the place. And she usually, when she's out, she's out. You know, you don't know that kids are that responsive to what's going around their surroundings until you see something like that. But I was interviewed again yesterday by Detective Yorkin. And then after that, I had called Bettina Williams, who worked with Keith. They shared the same office. I told her, I asked her, I said, could you politely ask Keith's parents if I can speak with them? And she called me back and gave us his phone number and address. And they said that they would be more than happy to talk to me. So I went over there, and his family he was a reflection of his family. His whole family were they were wonderful. I told him what happened, what Keith had done for me. And his mama was she sat there and she shook her head and she smiled at some of the things. Keith was somebody that would do anything for anybody. And he did. He gave his life. And when I was talking to him, when I finished, I looked at his brother. And we were talking, and they mentioned that Keith was the baby. And I thought that Irvin was the baby, and they said nope. And we were laughing. I said, it must be the bald head. And then before I left, I asked Irvin if I could have a teddy bear hug from him, and he grabbed me and we hugged for a while. And it's just like that. Keith was a reflection of that whole family. The whole family, it was wonderful and responsive.
So going back to the moment where Keith was on lookout, can you illustrate that for me? So at this point, you guys know there's an active shooter.
Keith stayed calm. He was in control. He was more concerned with us. I mean, he was just like, if it wasn't for him, I'm sure, because we would have ran out that door, there would have been 7 more bodies. One of them being me.
As you let that sink in, what goes through your mind?
How hard it's going to be to go back and not have Keith be able to see Rich, Missy, Kate. I mean, like, those people I ran into, and periodically, and I was telling my son, looking back, I don't think there was a day that I ever ran into all 4 of them on the same day, and Friday I did. And it makes you think that God had a purpose, that He wanted me to be able to see them one last time before they were taken.
When people were running around screaming active shooter, run this way, run back that way, at that point, what's going through your mind?
It was like you were following orders and your body was moving, but your brain was not processing everything as fast as your body was reacting. It was just like you were moving like a robot. There's, okay, I hear what you're saying, I'll do what you say, but you don't feel it was real. It's like, you're in a daydream. A day nightmare, but, It's, you don't think it's real. While you're going through it, you don't process it quick enough to realize that this is actually happening.
In terms of emotions, are you feeling anything? Scared, shocked, numb?
When I found out that it was Dwayne, he was a person that is well-groomed. I mean, he very together. And when you saw him in the hallway, you would say hi, and he'd say hi back. I didn't know him real well, but I knew who he was. And if I didn't see his gun, I would have walked up to him. I wouldn't have known he was a shooter. When they showed who it was, I was screaming at the TV, blaming his parents. And then I realized later that how wrong that was of me. And that I know that they're suffering a loss just as much as we are. They are victims. They deserve the space that they need to mourn, to process, and I don't think anybody should have any harsh things to say to them. They were, they need to actually hopefully mourn with all of us. Know that, Dwayne, some people could keep on, saying monster, monster, but, what was it that caused him to do it? Everybody has a breaking point, and I just hope that when people get to that point, they don't resort to violence. They go somewhere, talk to somebody. I mean, somebody is always there to talk to. Even if you don't believe in God, go talk to a priest, a pastor. I mean, go to somebody that knows how to help you process through what you're feeling. Don't resort to violence.
And how are you feeling today? Because it sounds like you don't sound angry, but how are you feeling today?
When I woke up this morning, I didn't think it was real. I still didn't think that it all happened to me. It was like, this couldn't have happened Friday. And then I turned on the television, and they were giving an update, and it drove home that, yes, it did happen. Yes, you went through it. Yes, you lost friends, and you'll never see them again. It's just, and then it's like, I went through the process of being angry with the city. I was so upset during one of the interviews. I was like, I blame the city for not reaching out to us. They've gotten on the news, they've did their little reports with the reporters, and they said that they're mourning with us, but they haven't reached, we're in limbo. We don't know what we're supposed to do. Do we report tomorrow to work? Do we not report tomorrow? Where do we go? Are you going to have us all in a group talking to us before we even start doing our jobs again? I mean, we got to get back to normality. We have to push on our coworkers that have fallen, but we're city employees. We have jobs that are needed and customers that we need to assist. Please tell us what we're supposed to do. Even if it's a text message or a canned message that everybody hears. I mean, just reach out to us.
And obviously you're still processing everything, but when you think back to that day, are there any images that you really can't get out of your head?
Lori shaking and crying so hard. I remember just staring at the bulges that those 2 bullets that almost came through, and I kept on thinking, okay, he's got a gun that's strong enough, I mean, not strong enough to pierce there, but the office we were hiding in, the walls were just like partition walls, and if he would have thought and came through the office next to us and shot through one of the partition walls, if he shot low enough, he would have gotten one of us. And I kept on thinking that. I was like, is he going to come back? Is he going to realize that he can shoot through that wall with what he had and penetrate all the way through? That shook me, and I was like, okay, I've got to get next to something metal. I need to protect myself. And I just like, you look at everybody that's there with you and their faces, and you can see that basically it looks like they're thinking the same thing. Where is the best place in that office to hide if he comes back? And, it's I can't describe it. It's just, you feel numb, but you're processing, how to survive.
So for Keith to jump out and look out?
He didn't, it's like, there were offices that were down the hall that people were occupying, but it's like, I was hoping that if he found another group of them, that he would go in there and barricade himself in with them. It's like he had, his job was to protect everybody. And I think that's the mindset that he had up to the very end. He knew that if he didn't do something, more lives would have been lost.
Just so I have this right, he told you guys to go in that room and barricade it and to lock the door.
Yes.
So that he could go around
And find other people.
to have them find shelter.
Yes.
The amount of courage that it takes for someone to do that.
Absolutely. I mean, I did not realize that his father was a pastor. I didn't know that. And when I found out that he was, and that Keith was in the choir and he was active with his church, it didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me one bit what type of family he was raised in.
And what was he like as a person?
He always, he would joke around. He had a contagious smile. I don't think there was one person that he didn't have a kind word to say to them. I mean, he made it a point to get to know my son Chuck. Chuck at the time was working at Burger King in drive-throughs part-time, and Keith happened to live close near that Burger King. So when he came through and Chuck was there, he always, had the time to stop and talk to him. I used to live on Bancroft in Virginia Beach, and it was on his way to work and back and forth to work. And there's been a couple times where I asked if I could catch a ride, and I told him the first time, I said, well, just stop on Rosemont and at the corner of Rosemont and Bancroft, and I'll just walk. And he said, what kind of gentleman do you think I am? He said, I take my ladies to the door and make sure they're in. He wouldn't let me walk. He took me all the way to my house. Um, when my grandbaby was first born, he made it a point to ask how Desi was, what was she learning to do. And I'd show him pictures, and he'd just laugh and smile and said, "You got a great kid there. She's going to be a pistol, but she got a great kid." So, he was awesome. He was a guardian angel that walked the earth, and now he's in heaven. And I was telling another reporter that my son came up with something that he did all the time when he was little. And if he was here today, I'd tell him, "I adore you, I love you, and I'm going to miss you so much." I wish I would have been able to tell him that.
Is there anything else that you want to share about him? Whether it's that day, do you, obviously everyone replays events, do you wish you forced him to come in with you?
Absolutely. I wish he would have been in that office with us. I know he probably would have, like, huddled with us in group hug and just held on. He was that type of person. He would have, I'm sure that he would have grabbed Lori and just held on to her as tight as he could and assure her that she was going to be okay, she was going to be safe. I reached out to everybody that was in the room with me, but the image of her just so upset broke my heart. I was scared, but she was young, she has so much to live for. And I'm glad that, most of all, some of the young people that I was so scared for made it. It's like, I'm 60 years old, and I was thinking, I lived my life, and why Keith, why not me? And I wish I would have been as brave as he was and helped him, and then maybe that would have made a difference.
How old is Lori?
I'm sorry?
How old is Lori? You said she's the baby of the group?
I think she's in her 20s, I'm not sure.
Well, I'm glad you're here. I can't even imagine. And so I guess now, you kept mentioning these bear hugs. Was that a thing of his?
When he knew I was upset, and I think he would even did it to other people. He would, give you a hug, say, "It'll be okay. Just keep on trucking. Do your job. You'll be okay. You'll get through it." And it's just like he was concerned about everybody. And just getting that bear hug from his older brother meant so much Sunday.
Is there anything that you want to share that I didn't ask you about?
People have asked me if I'm going back to work, and yes, I am. And they asked what I thought they could do. And I said that if they could put metal detectors on every entrance and a security guard, or even somebody from the sheriff's department, I would be willing to go through a metal detector and be checked every time I went into the building if that could prevent this from happening again.
Would you be able to walk in that building again?
I'm scared half to death to walk through the entrance. I afraid that I would be shaken, and walking into that building and knowing that I'm never going to see those people again. I don't know. I think it'll take me a little while before I can go through. And I'm just thinking, thank God they were thinking of moving us anyway so they can remodel. I don't know if the remodeling is going to make me strong enough to get in there again, but I know it's something that we have to do. We have to be strong for everybody. We've got to carry on and do what we're hired to do to honor them and stay strong.
And you said there was a total, of all the 12 victims, you knew 4 of them.
Yes.
You were close with 4 of them. I want to thank you for having the courage to share your story, share Keith's story, and we're going to do our best to really show the world what he did that day, because that is just, it's so courageous. There are no words to even explain that. Do you have any pictures with him by chance, or any pictures of him?
They're on Facebook, but I don't. Oh, I wish I would have had a picture of him and I together. I would have changed my Facebook page to with that picture. He needs to be honored and respected, and the city needs to do something to memorialize his heroism.
Did he have, you said he sang in the choir?
Yes, he sang at the choir at his father's church.
Did he have any children? Was he married? Anything? Or?
No. He was married at one time, and he was divorced. He was living with his parents and helping them. He was basically what I consider a heroic and strong family man. He there's just so many words that are going through my mind that portray him, and it's hard to process. It's still hard to process what's going on.
And what is your official title?
I'm an account clerk too.